to Rocky Mountain Prepper. Today we are continuing our journey through the Bible. We are doing this in a series that I call Strong Foundation. Simply because without a strong foundation of faith, you are not going to survive anything. Basically, with the rules of 3 seconds without hope, and you die. Without faith, you have no hope. So we must have faith. The only way we can gain faith is by being in the Word. Now, in other videos, I go over the rest of the rules of 3, so I'm not going to get into those today. When last we left off, Isaac and Rebekah got a plan to get Isaac the blessing. Just before that, Isaac's brother sold him his birthright for a pot of lentil stew. Honestly, I would not have done that, but he must have been really hungry, and I don't know. He didn't really care much. Alright, so let's dive in. Let's see, where am I? 28. Okay. This is Genesis 28. In Hebrew, that would be Bereshit 28. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him, and commanded him, saying to him, "Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethel, your mother's father, and take a wife for yourself from there, from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And El Shaddai bless you and make you fruitful and increase you, and you shall become an assembly of people. And give you the blessing of, make you an assembly of people and give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your seed with you, so that you inherit the land of your sojournings, which Elohim gave to Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel the Amorite, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take himself a wife from there, and that he was blessed, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a command, saying, "Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan." And Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Padan Aram. So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Isaac. And Esau went to Ishmael and took Maheleth, if I can speak today, it would be wonderful, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife, besides the wives he had. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came to a place and stopped over for the night, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going and coming down on it. And see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh, Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Isaac. The land on which you are lying I give to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east and to the north and the south, and all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land, for I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. There's a lot of different commentary about this passage here. And some people believe the ladder symbolizes Christ. That could be. I think it was just Yahweh's way of showing that He is present in our lives, that He is coming and going, that He is sending messengers back and forth, and He is active on the earth, which is just as important as Yahweh sending Yeshua, Jesus, to be with us. And Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Truly Yahweh is in this place, and I did not know it. See, even some of the great patriarchs didn't even realize when God was with them. It's important that we should always know that He is there with us at all times. Even when our lives are falling apart around us, God is with us. Yahweh won't leave us. He sent His Son to be one of us, so why would He not be there with us? Alright, let's continue. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the heavens. And Jacob rose early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up as a standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Jacob made a vow, saying, See, Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on. When I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahweh has been my Elohim, then this stone which I have set which I have set as a standing column, shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you. Genesis 29. Jacob lifted up his feet and came to the land of the sons of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep laying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. Now that's actually common practice even to this day, putting a large stone over the well so that at night, if a sandstorm blows in, you don't have your well getting plugged up with sand. And all the flocks would gather there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." And he said to them, "Do you know Laban, son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." So he said to them, "Is he well?" And they said, "Well, and see, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep." And he said, "See, it is still high day, not the time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them." But they said, "We are not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we shall water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. Now, remember, at this time, Jacob is around 80 years old. So, being able to roll this massive stone away at 80 is amazing. He is not a weakling by any stretch of the imagination. And when Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rebekah's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be, when Laban heard the report about Jacob, his mother's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, "You are indeed my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him for a new moon, about a month, 2 weeks to a month, depending on when exactly he showed up. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know, what should your wages be?" And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and beauty of appearance. And Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "Let me serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are complete, and let me go in to her." And Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter, and to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me?" Now, you got to remember, Jacob is in a very good spot right here. He could honestly get Laban destroyed politically and economically in this area just for this. Back then, your word was your bond. If you treated someone falsely, especially a relative, the entire town you lived in would shun you. You wouldn't have any business. No one would do anything with you. You would basically be an outcast and would have to leave and go to a completely other area. So Jacob has Laban over a barrel right now. And Laban said, "It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week with this one, then we will give you one. Then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me still another 7 years." And Jacob did so and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rachel too as wife. You're going to see throughout this the rest of the book of Genesis how badly multiple wives can actually end up. It always causes problems. Every time. There's always rivalries. There's always trouble when you have multiple wives. It's not a good thing. That's why God said one wife. One man, one woman. Things get very iffy. And Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a female servant. And he also went to Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah. And he served with Laban still another 7 years. And Yahweh saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, "For Yahweh has looked up on my affliction, because now my husband is going to love me." And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, "Because Yahweh has heard that I am unloved, he has given me this son too." And she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, now this time my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So his name was called Levi. You can see here that God keeps giving Leah child after child, and Jacob really doesn't care much for her. He goes in, does his husbandly duty, but he doesn't really love her. And honestly, he could have cast her out, and she would have ended up having to go into prostitution, and it would have been bad. So he actually showed great compassion for her by actually keeping her as a wife. But it's obvious that he didn't really love her. 3 sons, Levi, okay. And she conceived again, and bore a son, and said, now I praise Yahweh. So she called his name Judah. And she ceased bearing. Alright, Genesis 30. And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said to Jacob, give me children, or else I'm going to die. And Jacob's displeasure burned against Rachel, and he said, am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, see my female servant Bilhah? Go into her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well. So she gave Bilhah her female servant, as wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice, and given me a son. So she called his name Dan. And Rachel's female servant Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome. So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and took Zilpah, her female servant, and gave her to Jacob as wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, fortune comes. So she called his name Gad. This is getting very Jerry Springer. Again. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, I am happy, for the daughters shall call me happy. So she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and loved apples in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's love apples. So she said to her, it is a small matter that you have taken away my husband. Would you take away my son's love apples too? And Rachel said, "Therefore let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples." And then Jacob came out of the field in the evening. Leah went out to meet him and said, "Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you for my son's love apples." And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, "Elohim has given me my heir, because I have given my female servant to my husband." So she called his name Ishtar, I believe. Let me double check in another translation. 18. My Hebrew is not too good. Yep, Ishtar. I really need to brush up on my Hebrew more, but and Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, "Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have bore him 6 sons." So she called his name Zebulun. And after she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and said, "Elohim has taken away my reproach." So she called his name Joseph, and said, "Yahweh has added to me another son." And it came to be, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way to go to my own place and my own land. Give my wives and children for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you yourself know my service which I have done for you." And Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that Yahweh has blessed me for your sake." And he said, "Name your wages, and I will give it." So he said to him, "You know how I have served you, and know your livestock has been with me. For the little you have been, for the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and Yahweh has blessed you since my coming. But now, when I am to provide for my own house too?" And he said, "What do I give you?" And Jacob said, "Give me not, if you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through your flocks today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And these shall be my wages. And my righteousness shall never for me in time to come. Then you come concerning my wages, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me. And Laban said, See, let it be according to your word. And on that day he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob, and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar, and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth speckled and spotted. Brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and made the flocks face toward the streaked, and all the black in the flock of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with Laban's flock. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, so they would conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in. So the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones were Jacob's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels, and donkeys. Alright, we're going to stop right here for the time being. I thank you all for watching. Please read your Bible on your own. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And God bless all of you.